welcome back to the Tour World Podcast. I'm Gordon Ju, and today we have Mr. Paul Zhang from Australia.
Hey everyone.
Now, I'm not really sure. Are you actually from Australia, sir?
Yes sir, and I'm in San Diego at the moment. I'm just doing a work traineeship at the moment.
Oh, great. Maybe just ask you a couple questions, and you might have some questions for me. When did you start Taekwondo?
Towards the end of 2017 and 2018, as a child, we had WT in Sydney, which was quite big, being the first actual Olympics WT was held. So I didn't know about ITF until the age of 24 or 25.
Oh, okay, so you did WT before?
Yes, elements of it, and my first start was Hapkido actually.
Okay, and when did you start martial art, I should say?
Around the age of 12, 13, and then...
12 or 13.
Correct.
Excellent. Now, just out of curiosity, because you do have some background, and obviously you're a little bit younger when you started, but what would you say are some of the similarities? You said you started in Hapkido. How many years did you do Hapkido?
Maybe a year to two, and then the school I've actually trained at, they don't do WT anymore. They've converted their interest quite a lot, which is quite remarkable, to more mixed martial arts.
Okay, no problem. I think a lot of schools are kind of heading that way.
Unfortunately, sir.
Yeah. And so what draws you to the ITF version of Taekwondo?
When I first looked at ITF, it was at a PCYC, which is closed, and that's where I met my current instructor at. I realized they were wearing gloves, they were punching, and there was a lot of execution in the techniques, a lot of academic breakdown, so to speak, and it was quite different from what you typically see in the in the WT setting, so to speak. With WT, you have a lot more emphasis on kicking. A key difference is for the Upcha Prosigi, for instance. In WT, it's delivered to a high section, whilst an ITF practitioner has always been told to aim for the solar plex or the midsection when they're delivering a front kick, conventionally speaking.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, and you mentioned your instructor.
Yes,
is he ill?
Yes. I just want to acknowledge him today. He's gone through quite a turbulent year in his life, and he's just had a health procedure. So Grandmaster Tanfuk Che, I hope you're recovering well, rest up, and I also like to say hi to Sabun Mayumi and congratulate both two Dojang mates who just got married, both Vanessa and Winston. Congratulations. Sorry I wasn't in Sydney to congratulate you.
So you've been out to our studio. You enjoy California?
Yes, sir. It's quite a change of pace from the Bay Area to SoCal. I personally prefer this area, so to speak.
You prefer the Bay Area?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cool. Well, maybe you could move up here and work out with us a little more.
That's the intention.
Right. I think you had a couple questions you wanted to ask me.
Yes, sir. I guess you covered this with your son in the previous podcast, and training without a school, without I guess an instructor. But in our training yesterday, you said there was something about an ITF practitioner that there's loyalty, whilst many people will typically change styles due to location proximity. What do you think the reason behind it is, in your perspective?
Well, yeah, I think we had a podcast talking a little bit about can we do martial art online? Well, the question I would probably should have been clarified a little bit more. Why do you do Taekwondo? Is there a specific reason? But if you're a low rank, I'm just saying that if you're a low rank, really it's that repetition of doing fundamentals, right? And if you're outside of your school that has no ITF, and so what do you resort to? So someone did comment, go work out at a kickboxing studio, or go work out at karate or whatever. And I don't disagree with that. Okay, I don't
Sure.
disagree with that, because it just depends on where you are in your training, and right. Now, I did kind of refer to myself when I was a first degree black belt, and I looked, when I moved into a new area, there was no ITF, right? So, but I was a black belt, and I did look at other schools. I looked at Tang Sudo, and I did it for a little bit, and I did some karate, but it just wasn't for me. For me, I was lucky. There was this guy that actually did ITF patterns. It wasn't the way we do it, but it was fundamentally the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started working out with him, and he just stopped coming. And that's how I kind of inherited the school automatically.
Oh, wow, that's quite remarkable, sir.
Yeah, so I had all these kind of low ranks, and said, well, I'll show you what I know. But I told him I don't know very much, and as a first degree black belt. And then going down to like Grandmaster Wheatley's studio and having him test the students, and just seeking ways to learn.
Sure.
So today, what's interesting is that we have internet, we have Zoom, we have all those things. And so can you continue? I think you can, all right? I think you can to some degree, especially if you're just talking about, you have a lot of the fundamentals. But there's so many things that are missing as well. You're missing the one-on-one. You do need to practice blocking and striking other people, maybe not full power, but you still need to be able to move with somebody. So you're missing that sparring aspect, step sparring. What you can get out of online type of training, I think, is the knowledge, right?
Yes,
which is okay. I think it's okay for like students that have more background,
correct.
High ranks. You've been around for 15, 20 years. And not to say that you don't, like a
Still
color
very
couldn't,
new to
but
ITFs.
right. And so so that's a really good question, because maybe you're in an area and you go, you know what, you have to be able to augment that. If you don't have an ITF school and you want to be ITF, but you got to work out. You have to have that interaction work out. Is it okay to go and maybe do WT, karate, Tangsudo, and then zoom in on, yeah, I think you could. So now the question comes down to your loyalty, right?
Of course.
That's what I was kind of talking about. I can't say, what you should or shouldn't do.
Of course.
But I always General Che kind of said, always ask, can you do more than one martial art? And he says, can a person ride 2 horses at one time?
No, but interestingly enough, General Chai Hong-hei started with Shotokan karate and Taekyon.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. But then he realized the downfalls of both styles, and so he came up with Taekwondo, right?
Yes, sir.
So the question is, can you ride with 2 horses at one time? That's an interesting idea.
Analogy.
Although someone said to me one time, yeah, in the circus, you see people riding 2 horses at one time. Yeah, they're standing on top of each horse, Talk about loyalty. I think there's different degrees of loyalty. We have loyalty for our friends and stuff like that. Can we have camaraderie with other people? For sure, I think you can do that. But when it comes down to it, what is your passion, or who do you follow, or who do you take orders from? That's your loyalty, right?
That's an interesting. And my next question was, I've realized that even within the same organization or school, occasionally there are differences. From what our Grandmaster Tam did tell me was, it's a lot of the things are correct, but instructors emphasize different points, that when you have a big class, certain elements unfortunately do get missed, and ultimately respect the dojang you're at, and not to argue in that instance. Are these differences, did they occur after the general's passing, or why do you think there are differences in accordance to the encyclopedia, sir?
Oh, wow. These are pretty intense questions in a way. Yeah. No, I think it's always been there. I think that that idea, because you could go to an IIC, International Instructors Course.
Sure.
A bunch of people can go to it, and what I listen and what I hear from it might be it's my interpretation, really, is what it is, and then someone else might understand it. So it's how we kind of share that information. Sometimes when I teach a class, I'll present it a certain way, But then I might have another instructor who might be visiting, and they might present the same technique, but present it slightly different. And then it goes, and then for some people, it'll go, oh, now I get it, right?
I see.
But it's just the way how they kind of interpret things, right?
Correct.
It could be the same. And really, the beauty of ITF is that General Che laid out the groundwork of his work. And then I would have to say, we all kind of look at it and we interpret it a little bit differently. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why General Che took it upon himself to do these international instructors course and try to make sure that everyone, it came from his mouth.
Oh, wow.
Right? When he was doing all these courses. So you're hearing it right from his mouth, so that's kind of the word in a way. But even though I might have gone to a seminar and I can come back and teach it, it's still secondhand, isn't it?
Yes,
it's
sir.
not firsthand. And not saying it's right or wrong, it's just that's kind of what. So I think it's always been there. Now, your question regarding is it different because the General Che passed away? Yeah, probably because the question now becomes who is the official speaker of Taekwondo, right?
Correct.
Because if you have different organization, well, this is the way I'm teaching because that's his interpretation, right? President Che, I follow President Che. He's the son of the founder of Taekwondo.
Yes, sir.
He's been with his dad. I don't know anyone else will know more than him. There's lots of instructors that train with him, for sure.
Yes.
But that's you go to sleep with him, wake up with him. He must know more about his dad than anybody else, in some ways. That's what I would think. I would think my son would know more about me than even my closest black belts, right? And so,
Good point.
does that mean he knows more than other instructors? I can't say that. But I would hope, and I would think so, just because of that. My son, my daughter has a little bit more advantage. I said this. I don't treat them any differently, really.
Oh, wow.
They come to class. It's not like I go home and say, hey, let's go work on this, guys. It's not like that. I just say, yeah, let's go to Taekwondo. But the thing about them is that they had to come with me every day because I was doing Taekwondo. It's my job to babysit them in a way, so they came. If I went to a tournament, they were going. If I was going to a seminar, they were going. So do they have an advantage? Yeah, they have an advantage because they had to go to all these things. Most of my students don't, so they don't come to class all the time. They don't go to all the seminars all the time or all these tournaments. So are they at a disadvantage? Sure, in some ways, I might be just sitting around with my son and we're just chit-chatting and ideas come up and conversations come up that my regular students don't get. And so then you go, is that a disadvantage? And I'm just saying that I can see that with General Che and his son. They're maybe sitting around, he says something, President Che might say something, but he understands or he's got that connection going on that a lot of people wouldn't have, is kind of what I'm saying, right?
Very good point, sir.
So we all have different reasons why we do certain things, and you have to do whatever's best for you, I think. I think General Che says, if a student can't really learn from his instructor now, he's got to move on. The instructor's got to move him on to another instructor so that they can grow. They forget about the ego. He's my student. No, forget about the ego and help develop that student.
Oh, of course, and in this day and age, people do move, especially COVID. I ended up being given a number, and coincidentally, it was the first instructor I saw doing ITF, and I gave him a call after the pandemic. I realized, well, although I could continue grading where I was, there were a lot of differences, and it was the first time I actually sparred as a blue belt, so that was quite different considering I was doing a lot of breaking and a lot of different things. So I feel wherever you go, if there are differences that you have to adjust, it's your duty to adhere to your instructor's request more so than anything, particularly at higher grades, sir.
Sure. I think we should always just keep in mind that when we're in Rome, we always act like the Romans, right?
Correct.
don't change anything. You're in their house, so be respectful and do those kind of things.
My question to you, because every instructor has, I guess, a different opinion on this. Having taken like over a decade break from martial arts, because I only did martial arts briefly for WT in high school. So when I went to ITF, I started straight from a white belt, and rightly so, because the techniques, the sine wave, a lot of these things are different. What would be your perspective if you had a WT, whether it's a black belt or a senior color belt, and he said, or she said, I would like to start this, and what would be the procedure? Would you let them, is it practiced for them to keep their belt and train to an extent, or is it better to start fresh and achieve things block by block?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's an individual instructor's prerogative. Their dojang. I've actually had where I had a student that trained with me. It was high rank, not really high rank, red belt.
Sure.
Moved to a different state, trained at another dojang, and the instructor. I even know the instructor. Says here, oh, we're white belt, and you go. But we do the same things, yeah. But that's the instructor. He needs to evaluate you. He has to decide what's right? I kind of think also though, let's say I have a red belt in ITF. He comes in, and he knows all the patterns, up to red belt anyway.
Yes.
And his technique might be a little bit off, but then on the other hand, I could go white belt, right? But then, does he look like a white belt to the other guys? He may not.
And it's about,
Right?
I guess, when he trains, if he wants to continually training you, he can adjust techniques to an extent, one can argue.
Yeah, so, and I mean, there's also, not unfortunate, it's just the way it is. We all have some ego in some ways, right? As much as we would like to say, no, we don't have ego, we do have some egos in some ways. And is it really the student's fault that let's say they're WT, whatever style it is, and is it their fault that they didn't learn ITF? Well, no, it's the instructor's fault in a way, if you want to think of it that way, because they didn't teach ITF. So it's not the student, it's whatever was available for them, right?
Of course.
And so they can spend so much time dedicated to that art or dedicated to, their training, and then for some circumstances, and you're, I think, a good example, you have to move somewhere else, and then what do? You have to learn to adapt and those kind of things. So
Of course.
I wouldn't say that it's right or wrong. It depends on the instructor and what they feel works for them. I mean, you want them to encourage. I always want them to do martial art. If they don't like doing it with me, go out and do it, because it's good. Martial art's good, regardless of.
Yes.
I mean, I would say ITF Taekwondo, but you might not be able to find it. So yeah, I think it'd just be better if they train. I mean, I know a lot of different martial artists, different styles.
Yes, sir.
Have a lot of respect for them. So, it may not be what I want to do, but you can't, say that, that's no good compared to what I'm doing.
If it was just one style, no variety.
Yeah, I mean, so anyway, that's kind of my thoughts. I don't know if that answers your question.
It answers my question to an extent. I've always personally, from my personal perspective, I've seen them as different martial arts. For example, in the realm of karate, you got Kyokushin and Shotokan. You'll be doing different katas. The sine wave is a big adjustment, and that's from what I've been told from a lot of instructors why WT struggle to convert, because there's not enough emphasis in what they're doing, and the sine wave and the tools are actually quite different. So that's one of the reasons why I feel I've been told, and I've personally seen a lot of WT people, they might try it, and rightly or wrongly, they just don't continue on with it, because it's a different style in general, even though it has the name Taekwondo in it, so to speak.
Right. And President Che's making some major strides in that area. WT is probably, you just got to look at it. I kind of think it's really just a different style. you know. But that being said, what I'd like to do is maybe continue our conversation in another podcast.
Sure.
Would that be good?
That'll be excellent, and I want to say I'm very humbled to be welcomed here and into your Zhang with open arms, and I was able to finish the diagram of Zhongmu, which is the next hurdle going towards the Dan grades.
Right. Well, just keep practicing. Just do it over and over, and obviously, you've got some guys. I send some guys down there. Hopefully, you can get them motivated.
Hopefully, I've sent them messages, but we're all busy in our own lives, and I hope I'll be able to train. I don't know how long I'd be in San Diego for, but feel free to message in the group chat, guys, and hopefully we'll get training quite soon.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Zhang. We'll catch you on the next podcast. All right, everyone, keep training. Be safe. Next one.
Thank you.